welcome back to Wake and Take. It's your boy Jason, and boy do we have some football to talk about today. Today is Thursday, and it is now custom here on Wake and Take since the season is kicked off to just go ahead and do a little bit of a primer as we head into the week of fantasy football, week 4 now. We'll be looking at the injuries that you need to monitor, and then we're going to go game by game, giving my picks for the game, maybe talking some players to watch, hot takes and stuff as we kind of very briefly overview everything going on in week 4. So go ahead and take out your coffee, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. And good morning to everyone here in the chat. Max, Donald, our fearless producer, Dustin, Donald, Mark, Lucas, Literature, Bach. Good to see you all. It sounds like we're already hearing a little bit of discussion about this hurricane going on. Lots of rain happening over here, especially in my area. It has not stopped raining since maybe noon yesterday. It's not supposed to stop until later Saturday. It's kind of nice, to be honest. I see our fearless producer, Dustin Royer, talking about how his yard needed it. Totally true. Lots of places needed it. My fiance, she works in rivers, and a lot of her rivers down here have actually started to dry up over the last few weeks. So we need this rain. Hope everyone is safe out there. Hopefully no one comes across any flooding or any property damage or anything. Hopefully it just stays a heavy rain. But either way, hope everyone's staying safe in this hurricane area. As we get right into week 4, again, thank you everyone for tuning in. Let's talk some football. And the first thing that we always like to start off with is just kind of the news, if you will. And we'll just start with a couple news stories. And, for the most part, as we talked about last week, kind of at this point, when we're in season, pretty much all the news is just injury related. There's really not too much going on that doesn't have to do with injuries. So Christian McCaffrey, that's kind of really the only news story that isn't a practice report. You know what I mean? So Christian McCaffrey, we all know he's on IR right now. He has an Achilles tendonitis or something weird going on. The 49ers themselves have actually not told us what the injury is, what the severity is, what's really going on. They say, oh, we think it's Achilles tendonitis. We think he'll have to miss at least 6 weeks. We don't really know, though. It's a little weird. I'm not going to lie, this whole situation. And now he's going to Europe. He's going the European route. He's going the Kobe route. To go to Germany to get his Achilles tendonitis fixed. And this is confirmed by Kyle Shanahan. He said Christian McCaffrey has made the trip this week to try to resolve this issue. The full quote, I know he's going to see a specialist that I believe can help him with his Achilles process. He should be over there the next few days, and hopefully it'll help. I tried to do some research into what potentially, he could kind of been doing. It seems like Germany maybe has some stem cells or just other different surgeries and processes that we don't use here in America, whether it be FDA or some other legal red tape that we just haven't really figured out in our society yet. But Germany has figured out something, supposedly some of the best doctors in the world for this type of issue. So we'll see. Hopefully we get some actual updates. At this point, it's all speculation. But I just wanted to let you guys know that I'm a little terrified. I'm a little scared. It's not good to see, I think, at least. I can't think of any kind of examples of this within a recent time frame. I know Kobe Bryant did this. I maybe should have looked into when he was able to return from doing this. But otherwise, leaving the country to me to get medical help sounds like you are in dire straits. Like you have to go through some other means. You have to go through something that's not normalized in American medicine. That is probably not good news. So if I were to be asked, gun to my head, do I think that we see Christian McCaffrey at some point this season? My answer is, what season are you talking about? Are you talking about the fantasy football season, or are you just talking about the rest of football season? Because to me, it's almost trending to be a thing where the 49ers are going to push through this regular season without Christian McCaffrey with the hopes that he's able to return for a playoff run. And that is terrifying. You have to remember, guys, as much as we love fantasy football, as much as we think teams care about our fantasy football teams and getting player stats and stuff like that, they probably give two shits, right? Like, they do not care. They give absolutely zero cares in the world about our fantasy teams. And really, to another degree, what stats their players are getting. They care about the W, and they care about Super Bowls. And the 49ers, especially just coming from a Super Bowl loss, especially care about just getting back there. And so I really do think that they're, not being transparent with this injury, because they don't know what it is, but then also because they are probably taking their time with it at this point, right? Again, you have to think it's a little weird, right? I think it's a little strange that they waited until after week 1 to put him on IR, right? Like, it seemed that he would at least only miss like 1 or 2 weeks, but then it is just kind of rapidly deteriorated to where we don't even know what's going on. And it's not good news. It's not good news. You have to be concerned. And I'm not even sure what I would be giving for Christian McCaffrey in fantasy football right now. Like, I feel a little silly. I picked him up in a guillotine league. The team that had Christian McCaffrey got eliminated in the guillotine league, as I'm sure probably at this point, probably 100% of Christian McCaffrey guillotine teams are eliminated at this point. But I picked him up. I threw like 20% of fab on him, just thinking, I'm not going to lie, I'm a little cocky. I'm a little cocky. I've got a head. I like my team. I think my team's pretty good. I think I can weather the storm until Christian McCaffrey comes back. So I thought it'd be okay to throw him on. But I'm a little worried. I don't know when he's going to return. And like, I have like in my home league, for example, we're going here. We're talking about this. In my home league, for example, the team in last place, former winner, right? Like, he won a couple seasons ago, but now he's kind of in this rebuild process, and he hasn't won a game yet, not even against the median. He's got Christian McCaffrey. He's looking to rebuild, and he's trying to trade me Christian McCaffrey. But he wants, like, my Breece Hall, my Bijan Robinson. I've built this team pretty well. My Kenneth Walker, my Devon Achane. And I'm like, no, I don't really want to give you a young running back for Christian McCaffrey. I would like to stay within kind of the old running back market. I offered him Alvin Kamara, if that helps you guys kind of maybe put it into the picture of maybe some value. Like, I would, like, if I'm at this point, this is the best way to sum it up. And this is really good advice for Dynasty in general. There is more than one fantasy football market. This is my favorite thing that I've kind of started to notice over the last few years, is that there's more than one fantasy football market. It's not just the fantasy football market. You know what I mean? It's the old and dusty running back market. It's the running back market. It's the young wide receiver market. It's the big bodied wide receiver market. There's all these smaller markets within each other where you kind of have to make a deal with those. Like, no one's really trading you, I don't know, Kenneth Walker plus to get a CJ Stroud. Like, there's just like you have to kind of work within every single micro market. I sound like a damn nerd right now, to figure out what to do. And so in Christian McCaffrey's case, I am like, if I'm trying to acquire him, and this could bite me in the ass, right? It could. I'm acknowledging that. But I would only, as to Mark Rebler's point here in the chat, I'm only giving up other old running backs. Like, I don't feel like I said, I offered Alvin Kamara. I don't mind, like, maybe see, like I'm looking like Joe Mixon, Alvin Kamara, maybe Derrick Henry, some of those guys. What can I add to Raheem Mostert to get to Christian McCaffrey? You know what I mean? Austin Eckler, or maybe a pick. I might throw a first if I am really thinking I'm making the playoffs and Christian McCaffrey could maybe throw me over the top in the playoff run, because I still think it's possible he returns for the fantasy playoffs. I'm still more so kind of thinking it's going to be the NFL playoffs. But to answer like the fantasy football question of Christian McCaffrey, if you have him and you can offload him for a young running back in Dynasty, do it. If you're in Dynasty and you're trying to acquire him, I would be staying within picks or other old running backs or old players in general, like a Cooper Kupp, Christian McCaffrey swap. something like that. I'm not trying to trade any youth for this guy. And that could bite you in the ass, right? Like maybe unproven youth could be okay. Like if you really, really want to see what, like how close a Christian McCaffrey, or maybe, God, holy shit. Could you imagine? Think about this, guys. This might be able to be pulled off in redraft. Listening to the Sonic Truth, highly recommend listening to the Sonic Truth that came out this week. They were talking about the Bucky Irving, Rashad White kind of conundrum. Could you imagine trading Bucky Irving for Christian McCaffrey? That doesn't sound that far off from what I'm understanding from the Dynasty and even redraft community's hype for Bucky Irving right now. If you can send Bucky Irving for Christian McCaffrey, you're dynastying correctly. That's a fantastic move. So that would be something I'm trying to explore. If any of your younger running backs have started to pop off due to injury, like a Bucky Irving, then that's a really good move to make, I would say. So I see here Terminal Sarcasm traded DeAndre Swift in a second for Bucky in a third. I like the DeAndre Swift in a second side. I would rather have Swift over Bucky in second over a third. But that just goes to show really the whole market right now for Bucky Irving is pretty interesting. So that's where we'll kind of leave things on the Christian McCaffrey train. If you could, swap another older running back to try to get into the Christian McCaffrey, maybe that's fine. Maybe a pick or maybe a Bucky Irving to try to get some CMC. But otherwise, you can't give up too much. And that, it sucks not being able to because I want to. Generally, I am someone where I'm like acquire an asset like this at the low point. But I can't wrap my head around it, to be completely honest with you, in terms of like wanting to like truly go and mortgage my dynasty future to get this player. I'm just not quite there, especially since he's a running back. As good as he is, I'm understanding this. As good as he is, I just can't do it. We talked about selling James Cook this week. I might see if you could trade James Cook for Christian McCaffrey plus, depending on what that plus is, I think that could be nice. But otherwise, it's hard to want to acquire this player right now. Hopefully he recovers soon. We're wishing the best for Christian McCaffrey. But as of right now, he's going to Germany to figure out what the hell is going on with his Achilles. And I spent way longer on that segment than I wanted to. But let's go ahead and move on to the rest of the actual injuries and practice reports heading around this week. The players that you need to keep your eye on as you're setting your lineups and making these decisions. I've got limiteds and I've got did not practices for you guys. Starting with Jonathan Brooks, because this is one where you should go ahead and start looking to add this player. If Jonathan Brooks is available in any fantasy football league, get him. If he's on the block, say that someone has been like, man, Chuba Hubbard looked good, I'm just going to throw Jonathan Brooks on the block. I don't think Jonathan Brooks is going to be a bell cow when he returns. The latest reports are that he is in the final stages of recovery and is approaching return to action. So it's not this week, which he's already marked out this week. Probably next or within the next 2 weeks is what we should say is Jonathan Brooks' return, which is kind of what was expected. That was the timeline anyway. But it's nice to just hear the actual reports start to come around Jonathan Brooks in the final stages of recovery, approaching return to action. Keep your eye on Jonathan Brooks, guys. If he's available, get him. And this is probably your last chance to try to acquire him, really. Now, you could maybe get cute with it and maybe see if him and Chuba Hubbard split carries for the first few weeks and be like, see, who's not a bell cow? But I think that the owner of him is probably a little bit wise. I do think he'll be pretty solid in this offense if they figure things out. So go ahead and try to get some Jonathan Brooks. And yes, I do agree here, Dustin. I can't really too much get into start sits. I see a lot of these questions. It's pretty tough to get into the start sits, but I'll try my best at the back of the show if you guys want to start throwing some more questions. But let's get through this injury report. And like you said, yes, Wednesdays are a little bit fugazi when it comes to the things, and that's what we'll talk about. We'll talk about that, if we should really be concerned or not. But Trey McBride. So we're just going to go by team, city name first. I want to throw Jonathan Brooks at the top since that was a little bit unique. But starting with the Arizona Cardinals, down to the Washington Commanders. Trey McBride, he did not practice on Wednesday. He is still looking to return from his concussion. The way I look at concussion injuries is if they pick up a limited on Friday and Saturday, they're good to go. So just kind of keep your eye on it. Yeah, he did practice on Wednesday, but that's still plenty of time to return to action from a concussion. The NFL doesn't really care. And if you're a stud, you're going to be out there more than likely. However, we did see Michael Wilson kind of step up really well last week when Trey McBride went down with the concussion. So keep your eye on him too. You may maybe go ahead and take a little bit of a flyer on Michael Wilson in case Trey McBride is out. But right now, not practicing with concussion, definitely something to monitor over Friday and Saturday. Also on the Cardinals, Marvin Harrison Jr. is limited with a quad injury. Nothing really to see here. Again, if you pick up a limited practice on Wednesday, you're fine. And also for the most part, if you don't practice on Wednesday, you're fine, depending on the injury and the caliber of player you are. But it's just important to note that Marvin Harrison Jr. is limited right now, is kind of playing through something. It's a quad injury. Those generally don't affect performance too much, so he should be fine. Moving to the Carolina Panthers, Adam Thielen officially placed on IR with the hamstring injury he picked up on Sunday. Looks like it'll be Deontay Johnson and Xavier Legette going forward again on waiver show on Tuesday. We talked about picking up Xavier Legette, so if he is still out there, go ahead and try to scoop him up. It is looking like on the Chicago Bears that Keenan Allen will be returning this week. He already picked up a limited practice on Wednesday. And normally, if you're a veteran returning from injury, you don't practice on Wednesdays. So to already see a limited practice from him, that to me signals good news. He did have 11 targets in week 1. So he was a big part of the game plan originally heading into the season. So just look to see what type of target share he does get if he does return. Just kind of keep your eye on Keenan Allen throughout the week. But already picking up a limited practice on a Wednesday, to me, signifies some good news. On the Cincinnati Bengals, Jamar Chase is playing through a shoulder injury. It looks like limited practice on Wednesday, totally fine. Just a Wednesday practice report thing, but still shoulder injury for Jamar Chase, something to keep our eye on, as he has had shoulder surgery, I believe, from a couple seasons ago or last season. Nick Chubb is doing well. Nick Chubb is doing well, and the Browns have come out and said that they will be evaluating him next week in terms of when they expect him to return. So I just wanted to preface this, or just kind of not preface since I already mentioned it, but just want to put this out there into the ether. You guys, the audience, people that have spent their mornings joining me here on Wake and Take, know that Nick Chubb is returning soon. So try to acquire him while you can. I think Nick Chubb is going to be Nick Chubb. You take that as you will. Personal opinion, Nick Chubb is just a dog. He's a true athlete, a true animal, and I just don't think that he's going to be have too many setbacks. You know, we've seen a lot of the the kind of training videos from him. He looks good. It's Nick Chubb. He's just a different beast. So I would say that just kind of use your time over the next couple weeks before he does actually return to try to get him, much like Jonathan Brooks, because Jerome Ford has popped up on the injury report. Jerome Ford has a knee injury. Coincidentally enough, Jerome Ford has a knee injury and did not practice on Wednesday. So keep your eye on Jerome Ford. We might have a Deontay Foreman week. So here, the Wake and Take audience, this is why I like to do this on Thursdays, by the way. Everyone who's like, why don't you just wait until Friday to do all this? Because you get a little bit ahead of it on Thursdays. Jerome Ford knee, did not practice. Pick up Deontay Foreman today because he'll be a hot waiver wire ad on Sunday. More than likely, go ahead and get Deontay Foreman. Pierre Strong also limited at practice, so he honestly might not even be out there. It would be if Jerome Ford does trend to not play. Just Deontay Foreman. Even as bad as the Browns offense is, that should be a lot of volume, and we've seen Foreman do this just time and time again. So Deontay Foreman, he needs to be picked up. Josh Reynolds, he has an Achilles injury that he's been playing through the last few weeks because he's just a monster. Limited practice, nothing to worry about. He has been limited with this Achilles injury since week 1 and still played. Sam Laporta officially reported as a low ankle sprain. He's reported as day-to-day. Probably going to play this week. Just don't expect Sam Laporta type performance. Just expect, a player playing through a low ankle sprain type performance. Next, Jordan Love is looking to be returning this week. As we saw last week, he almost played on Sunday's game. It's looking like he will be playing this week. He picked up another limited practice on Wednesday, trending towards action time for Jordan Love. So if like a Christian Watson was dropped or something, or really just if any Packers receiver is acquirable right now because of the lull, even Jordan Love, right? You probably missed the boat on trying to buy Jordan Love, but still, if there are reasonable prices to get any of these Packers receivers, go ahead and do so, as it's looking like it's going to be the Love Show this week. Mentioning the Packers, Luke Musgrave, Tucker Kraft, and Jaden Reed, all limited and practicing through an injury on Wednesday, but probably fine. Dalton Schultz, limited with his ankle injury. He played this week, so he should be fine. However, also on the Texans, Dameon Pierce and Joe Mixon. Dameon Pierce and Joe Mixon are both not practicing still. So if you took a flyer on Cam Akers last week, still roster him. Keep holding on to that guy. It is very possible that we have another Cam Akers week this week. So Joe Mixon, Dameon Pierce still not practicing. Pierce with a hamstring, Joe Mixon with an ankle. Keep your eye on those throughout the weekend. Also on the Texans, Tank Dell. He picked up a chest injury. He did not practice on Wednesday, but he was reported as day-to-day. And the head coach came out and said that he expects him to play. But just note that Tank Dell has a chest injury, may not be practicing this week, so it's very possible he's not a big part of the game plan. You may have to bench Tank Dell this week. Evan Ingram. Evan Ingram is still not practicing with his hamstring injury. Evan Ingram. Looks like it's going to be another Stream Brenton Strange week. I want some more reports on this Evan Ingram injury, if I'm going to be honest with you guys. I mean, like a pregame warm-up, hamstring injury should not be this bad. I am very curious what's going on. Still not practicing. Still no true news about a timeline either. It's very strange, but not practicing Evan Ingram. Gabe Davis is limited with a shoulder injury. Probably fine. On to the Chargers. Justin Herbert re-aggravated his high ankle sprain against the Steelers. And he's practicing and probably going to play this week. I know that, as fantasy gamers, we like to see our assets, our rostered players, our starters, especially like a Justin Herbert is, to toughen up and play, score us some fantasy points. But am I wrong to be a little upset at Justin Herbert playing through a high ankle sprain? That to me feels a smidgen too far. I think you should probably rest up, Justin. I don't know. Call me crazy, right? But I don't know about this one, guys. I don't know. Playing through a high ankle sprain to me is not a good idea. But it looking like he's going to do it. Also looks like Josh Palmer will be returning. He picked up a limited injury or a limited practice from his ankle calf injury. He did miss last week, but looks like he should be back this week. Cooper Kupp update. He is no longer wearing a cast. He is still marked as out, but the cast is off. He's officially working with strength and conditioning coaches to try to get back on the field. So just keep a close eye on Cooper Kupp reports. It's possible he returns next week. I would still probably put it at 2 more weeks before his return this week and next out, but it's looking like he is trending towards returning sooner than we were thinking, which is good news. Raheem Mostert. The Dolphins haven't had practice yet. They have a Monday Night Football, so they don't have to. Well, they might have had practice, but they don't have to report injuries until Thursday today. So because they're playing Monday Night Football. So Raheem Mostert, he's just questionable still. No practice update. Kind of same for Skylar Thompson. He's listed as questionable. He's day to day with the rib injury. There's more expected to be known, Friday, Saturday. So just kind of keep your eye on those two, Raheem Mostert and Skylar Thompson. I would probably, not that you were, but I would go ahead and just bench either of these players for really anything, given that they're Monday night games. I just wouldn't risk it. But still, just keep your eye on it. Jordan Addison, looking like he'll be able to return this week. Jordan Addison picked up a limited practice on Wednesday with his ankle injury that he's missed the last couple weeks for. Jordan Addison should be back. Hunter Henry, ankle, limited, should be fine. Alvin Kamara has a hip pointer and a rib injury right now. He did not practice on Wednesday. However, they are playing the Falcons this week. I think he'll be out there. Alvin Kamara not practicing, but should be fine. Probably more of a veteran rest day since it was a Wednesday, but definitely still something to keep your eye on. Maybe Taysom Hill has to return sooner than he should have, but definitely maybe take a flyer on Jamal Williams just in case. Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, both not practicing, both probably not going to play this week. Fire up your Saquon, fire up your Dallas Goedert. Jaylen Warren picked up another injury. This is not a hamstring injury. This is a knee injury. Jaylen Warren picked up a knee injury and is not practicing. So it's trending towards a Cordero Patterson, Najee Harris week. So keep your eye on those two players. Russell Wilson, limited with his calf injury. Justin Fields is the starter, so really not much to say there. Deebo Samuel, doubtful still. Did not practice with his calf injury. Probably not going to play. Give him a couple more weeks as well. But George Kittle, he may be playing this week. George Kittle has a hamstring injury where he had to miss last week, but he did pick up a limited practice on Wednesday, so probably fine. Same thing. The Kenneth Walker, also Monday Night Football, so they don't have to report their practice yet. Limited. Last week, though, picked up a limited practice on Friday. So Kenneth Walker, I think, is trending towards playing. He's listed as questionable, but definitely something to monitor. They have the Lions this week, so it's a very important game. I think he'll probably suit up. Which, by the way, Theo, if you're listening, I don't know why you traded Isaiah Pacheco for Bucky Irving. I don't know if you're listening right now, but man. Or sorry, Zach Charbonnet. You traded Isaiah Pacheco for Zach Charbonnet. I don't know why you did that, but I'm also just the biggest Kenneth Walker fan on the planet, so whatever. Anyway, Bucky Irving, speaking of, limited with a hamstring injury. Definitely something to monitor, guys. This is a big deal. Bucky Irving gaining a ton of height because Rashad White has a groin injury and he's playing through it. Bucky Irving now possibly playing through a hamstring injury. We might see it flip right back to normal immediately. So if you can get Rashad White for a reasonable price, go ahead and do so. Chris Godwin, neck injury, limited, probably fine. But you don't like to see that. You don't like to see neck injuries, but probably fine, especially since he picked up a limited. And so did Mike Evans, limited. Yes, Irving has a hamstring injury now, but he picked up a limited practice, which is usually good news for hamstring injuries. If they're still practicing through it, it's probably fine. But it does, of course, limit your performance on the field and everything. So just kind of keep your eye on that, guys. I would say try to acquire Rashad White if you can. Still reasonable price. Like a Zamir White plus for a Rashad White could be a very interesting pivot right now. And yes, Walker's injury is a weird one, but he's just a warrior, right? It's a weird oblique injury. But I think since he got limited practices last week, the extra rest time, the important game, I think he'll play. Probably not full workload, but I think he'll play. So anyway, that is the injury rundown. Always fun to do that. Always fun to do that. Always important. Probably the most important thing we do on the show every week. So hopefully that gave you guys some good insight. Just monitor all those players. And then, of course, as always, tune in to Wake and Take on Sunday morning, 10 a.m. as I go through my top starts and sits of the week. And then just keep your eye on the Player Profiler Twitters. We do tweet out all the inactives and everything like that. I do see a lot of questions in the chat, so I'm going to kind of go ahead and pick a few of my favorites. While I do that, why don't we hear just a little bit about Fast Draft?
Oh, the NFL season is underway, and if you drafted on Fast Draft this summer, the Origins All-Rookie game, the Flex 4 game, check the live scoring, see where you are in the standings. You might be in line for a big payday. And no matter where you are in the world, you should have the Fast Draft app because there's a custom Dynasty mock tool that's free to everybody with super sharp ADPs, and we're rolling out DFS tournaments throughout the year, and the 2025 tournaments will go live before any of us realize, oh my God, the 2025 season is upon us. Download Fast Draft, register, and you will be alerted as soon as these new contests are unleashed. Check it out on fastdraft.app.
Go check out those leaderboards on Fast Draft, guys. It's pretty cool stuff. Pretty cool stuff. I'm going to answer a few questions, and then we're going to go ahead and go game by game. We're going to start Arshad. He needs a waiver wire pickup. Roschon Johnson was dropped. Go all in. I don't think you have to go all in, but definitely try to acquire him. I think you could probably get him at 5%, really. I don't think anyone's rushing to pick up Roschon Johnson unless you're in a league of Player Profiler listeners. But for the most part, only Player Profiler listeners are looking out for Roschon. You should probably go ahead and be able to get him for a reasonable price and fab. Don't go all in, but definitely try to get him. Would you trade Bowers and A.J. Brown for Kelsey and Amon-Ra? No, I would rather have Bowers over Kelsey, and I would rather have Amon-Ra over A.J. Brown, but right now Bowers just looks like such a stud. Dynasty tight end 1 already through 3 games. It's insane, really. The type of usage he's getting, especially with Devontae Adams on the team, it's just too much of an alpha to give up. However, it does sound like you could probably add to A.J. Brown to get Amon-Ra, Quinn, and that is something. I think that, guys, we'll talk about this in a little bit. I saw another trade, but sometimes if trade offers come through, a light bulb should go off. Like, oh my God, this player is acquirable. And it looks like Amon-Ra St. Brown is acquirable. Quinn, do what you can to get him. Do I think Huntley will be starting over Boyle? Yes, I do. In a 2Q quarterback league, you have Richardson, Levis, and Caleb Williams. Probably start Caleb Williams and Anthony Richardson. I like Caleb Williams against the Rams. And Will Levis has looked bad. Bench, hold Demarcus Robinson, or drop for Leggett. Yes, drop Demarcus Robinson for Xavier Leggett. Fox says, I'm a huge Neighbors fan and was offered Marvin Harrison Jr. straight up in Dynasty, and you decline. Am I nuts? I would say, no, you're not nuts. I love Marvin Harrison Jr. I would say, if anything, they're about equal right now, and so it's kind of a pick your flavor. I have a little bit of a trade rule. I've talked about it a few times on Trade Gods, the Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson rule. And I think it needs an addendum. I would only trade Malik Neighbors if I get Marvin Harrison Jr. plus, and I would only trade Marvin Harrison Jr. if I get Malik Neighbors plus. It sounds like you can maybe squeeze this player. If they were offering Marvin Harrison Jr. straight up, you might be able to get a cherry on top. In that case, I think you should. If you could get extra value, I think it is worth it, because I do think we're talking about 2 top 5 dynasty wide receivers with incredible ceilings throughout their career. Joseph has a little bit of trader's remorse right now. You lost Pacheco and traded Waddle for Olave in week 2. I like that, actually. I think I do like that. I think I do like that. However, you traded Amon-Ra for Garrett Wilson, Kenneth Walker, and Zach Charbonnet. That I am less excited about, but you did win the trade. I'm not a big Garrett Wilson guy, so I would say we actually just on Tuesday talked about selling Garrett Wilson. So if you can then flip Garrett Wilson for a different wide receiver with some assets, I would be very, very happy with this trade, because I do love Kenneth Walker. So I think you win the trade in terms of value. I'm just not a big Garrett Wilson guy, so I would look to flip him for something to really bring home this deal. Jalen Hurts or Daniels? Probably Jaden Daniels. Wow. Yeah, I think Jaden Daniels, actually, because it's a little bit more of a shootout match. And then Carson Steele, Tony Pollard, Jerome Ford, Bucky Irving. Probably, it looks like Steele and Pollard, really, with the Bucky Irving hamstring injury and Jerome Ford knee injury. Anthony Richardson, Caleb Williams, or Sam Darnold. Go Sam Darnold, A-Rich. Start 2, Tank, Mooney, Braylon Allen, or Ford. Mooney and Braylon Allen, it looks like, based on injuries. Cool. Those are all the questions I starred. Let me really quickly go check the chat real quick. If Jordan Love plays and you have Jared Goff, who would you start? Probably Goff. Probably just go Goff. Would you trade Brian Robinson for Joe Mixon and Jake Ferguson? Honestly, if you're competing, yeah, for sure. Actually, in general, I think I would do that. It looks like Jake Ferguson's going to be pretty solid throughout his career. Jaden Daniels versus CJ Stroud. Probably just go Jaden Daniels for the rushing floor. You're being offered Jaden Daniels for Bo Nix, 2 firsts, and Jonathan Brooks. If you can make that 1 first, I would do it. Cool. And you should play Anthony Richardson over Taylor Huntley. What do you? Come on. Got it. Cool. All right. Those are all the questions, guys. You can keep asking them. We'll try to get some more back at the show. But let's go ahead and hop into week 4, guys. We're going to go over to the Yahoo kind of pick'em league. We'll talk about the spreads and everything. Well, again, this is just kind of a brief. This is the opinion part of the show, right? Like, not much analysis is coming. If that's not your tea, but hop off. I don't want to hear any hate or anything. We're just going game by game, briefly overviewing, talking about some of the things I may expect and what I'll be looking out for in the game. So here we go. I will share my screen. Thursday night football tonight, guys. Should be a fun one, actually. Should be a fun one. We've got the Dallas Cowboys heading to New York to take on the Giants. The Giants are the underdogs, of course, and the Cowboys are favored by 5.5. And call me crazy. Call me crazy. I know the Giants are playing really, really well right now. I know that the Cowboys are not playing really, really well right now. However, something tells me Thursday night football. Oh, man, actually, starting to feel a little. What's the total in this one? Doesn't tell me. Great. Thank you, Yahoo. You know what? No. Cowboys. They turn it around this week. There's nothing. God. Why in my gut is the Giants screaming at me right now? The Giants are screaming at me right now. Looking at that right now, actually, the Giants are screaming at me. My head says Cowboys, but man, my heart says New York. Primetime game. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, 5.5 against division rivals. High power. They're not very high powered right now. In New York, I'm like getting flashbacks of Odell Beckham right now. Malik Neighbors. Malik Neighbors versus Trayvon Diggs. That'll be fun. McIntosh's head and heart says Giants. That sold me. We're locking in the Giants answers, boys. Let's go. Falcons hosting the Saints by 1.5. Falcons easy. This should be a very fun game, though. This should be a very fun game. The Saints finally revealed as frauds. Fuck the Saints. FTS. Revealed as frauds last week. I don't think that they bounce back. There's no way they hang 40. The Falcons defense has been pretty tough. And these Saints-Falcons games are always really, really close. At home, in the Mercedes-Benz, the real Mercedes-Benz, the Falcons beat the Saints. In this game, though, I am very, very, very curious to see Kyle Pitts again. Right? Like, come on. Kyle Pitts, show us something. Please, show us something. I don't want to see another Darnell Mooney 8 reception. I don't want to see that. I actually absolutely do not want to see that. I want to see some Kyle Pitts action in this game. They've got good corners, right? They have some great corners in New Orleans, so it should be a tough game for Drake London. I think that should give some opportunity for Kyle Pitts, I hope. That's what I'm hoping for. But definitely keep your eye on New Orleans. It looks like Alvin Kamara's banged up. Taysom Hill, he's banged up. Derek Carr to Chris Olave is working. At least it did kind of last week. But I don't know. I think the Falcons should easily handle this game. Bears hosting the Rams, favored by 3. I'm going to give it to the Rams. The Bears haven't really put it together too much yet. They are definitely trending in the right direction, and we saw them kind of show some signs of life last week. But let's be honest here. We just watched the Rams and Matthew Stafford put on an absolute show against those 49ers. And I just don't think that that's going to stop, right? Even without Cooper Kupp, even without Puka Nacua, Matthew Stafford is undeniable. And I got to go with him. The Bears by 3, that doesn't make any sense to me, to be completely honest with you. You got to get, you got to go with the Rams in this game, pulling off the upset in Chicago. I can't even believe it's an upset. Yeah. However, the Bears, I am very curious. It's looking like Keenan Allen will be playing. So how good does this offense look at full strength? We just saw 300 passing yards from Caleb Williams, right? We just saw the Roma Dudze coming out party. Are they firing on all cylinders? That should be awesome to watch. And of course, the backfield, right? Last week, we finally saw a split between DeAndre Swift, Roschon Johnson, Khalil Herbert. I am definitely curious to see how that develops over the course of the game. Definitely keep your eye on those Bears backfields. Take your flyers on all of them, right? It seems I was wrong to be a little in on DeAndre Swift in the offseason, but it looks like Roschon Johnson's a fun pickup right now. And someone asked, is Tutu Atwell worth picking up as a flex option? No, I don't think so. The only Ram I want, I'm just going to continue to put myself on record here. The only Ram receiver I want is Jordan Whittington. I care about upside at the end of the day, and I just don't really care about the potential, like, quote-unquote floor that a Tutu Atwell or Demarcus Robinson can give me. I think if anyone is to become a bigger part of this offense throughout the season, it's going to be Jordan Whittington. So that's kind of who I'm taking my flyer on in this offense. Next, the Packers hosting the Vikings. This is the Aaron Jones revenge game. Vikings undefeated, playing super well right now. Top 5 in the NFL power rankings. Packers hosting them, though. Looking like Jordan Love will be back. And I would just expect him to be back, given it's a divisional game. Favored by 2.5. And I'm going to give it to him. Again, I am going to keep betting against Sam Darnold. Like, I don't care if it continues to prove me wrong. I will continue to bet against Sam Darnold until he returns to Sam Darnold form. And I do think that Jordan Love returning for this game will fire up those Packers and help them win. Honestly, a must-win game. I know it's early in the season, but this is a big game for them. The Vikings could continue to run away with this division if they don't pull it off. They're favorited. They're at home. Jordan Love returning. Let's go Packers. I think that, again, I think that eventually Sam Darnold will turn into Sam Darnold. I don't know if it'll be against this Packers team, right? But at some point he will, so I'm just going to continue to bet against him. He could even look fine and still lose this game. But look for Aaron Jones to score a touchdown. Of course, it's the revenge game. Look for Justin Jefferson to do his thing. On the Packers side of the ball, if Jordan Love plays, just look at it. Just watch. Enjoy, right? Just take it all in. Watch a real offense kind of unfold before your eyes. And heavily watch these splits between Jaden Reed, Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson. The backfield, right? Emmanuel Wilson almost basically split the backfield last week with Josh Jacobs. So keep your eye on the Emmanuel Wilson, Josh Jacobs splits. I would assume, since this is an actual competitive game, that Josh Jacobs kind of goes back to getting it all, but definitely something to monitor. Someone's asked if they should drop Demarcus Robinson for Wan'Dale Robinson, and I would say yes. Moving on, we have the Steelers versus Colts. Steelers favored by 2, and yeah, they keep things rocking and rolling. I think this Steelers defense is going to be horrendous for Anthony Richardson to play against. And the Steelers, they're also undefeated. Justin Fields playing pretty well, right? Najee Harris going up against a non-DeForest Buckner Colts defensive line. This should be a cakewalk for the Steelers. Lock it in that pick, no questions asked. However, as I mentioned, TJ Watt should kind of make some noise in this game against, and really the Steelers defense as a whole. Very curious to see how Anthony Richardson handles that pressure. He has not looked very good the last couple of weeks. Didn't even really look that good week 1, but got the fantasy points. I want to see something come from Anthony Richardson, and I want to see him look at least normal against a good defense. But I'm just kind of curious. I can see the Colts really kind of just handling this game, and I'm going to be watching pretty closely to see how Anthony Richardson handles that adversity, probably playing from behind against a tough defense with not much time on the clock. Could be a very curious game. Next, we have the Jets hosting the Broncos, favored by 7.5. And I'll say the Broncos cover. 7.5 is just a huge spread. And I know the Jets showed some signs of life last week, really handed it to the Patriots, won by like 20 points. But the Broncos just absolutely handed it to the Buccaneers, won by 20-something points in Tampa. So why couldn't they go into New York and kind of do some of the same thing? I don't think they win this. I still think the Jets win, but 7.5 is a big spread. I think they'll be able to cover. Keep your eye on that Broncos backfield again, right? We've avoided the Broncos backfield on Wake and Take. We were correct there. We've done it. No reason to continue, kind of hammering that point, but definitely still at least keep your eye on the splits between now Tyler Beatty, Jaleel McLaughlin, and Javonte Williams. None of them are really startable right now. But yeah, on the Jets side of the ball, just hopefully we get a Garrett Wilson game, right? Like we need a Garrett Wilson game at some point, but it's probably going to be a Breece Hall game. Next, we have the Eagles versus Buccaneers, a little bit of a playoff matchup. Should be a fun game. Eagles favored by 2.5. And yeah, I'm going to give it to them as well. I know the Falcons beat them and the Saints didn't, but that's because the Falcons are the best team in the NFC South. And they're better than the Buccaneers too. So I think the Eagles will be able to beat Tampa. Coming off a loss against Denver, I don't think that they'll, I think that they'll kind of still be in that, playing a little poorly right now. And I think that especially with Rachaad White still a little banged up, now Bucky Irving picking up an injury, it's going to be hard for them to get that ground game going, which should, make it a little bit easier for the Eagles to, step up their pass defense. They've got a really good pass rush. Should give Baker Mayfield some fits in this game. But even though the Eagles have no A.J. Brown, no Devontae Smith, I still think they pull it off, if not solely on the heels of Saquon Barkley, but also Dallas Goedert should get mixed in a good bit. But the big thing to keep our eye on here is Chris Godwin. If the Buccaneers win, I'll go ahead and put the take out there. If the Buccaneers win, it's because of Chris Godwin. Like, this does scream a Chris Godwin ceiling game, right? The Eagles, they get to the quarterback really quickly. They have really good perimeter protection. So I think that Mike Evans should have another slow game, and they should rely on heavily Chris Godwin. So we could see like one of those 2-touchdown Chris Godwin games. So definitely keep your eye on him and start him up this week. Bengals, Carolina. Bengals favored by 4.5. And this is my hot take of the episode. The Bengals win this game by a lot. I don't think the Andy Dalton show continues. It might, right? I think he'll be fine. And yes, Edson, I do read the chat. I'm just trying to get through this portion before I answer your questions. But I just don't know, right? Now we have the tape on Andy Dalton. The teams know what they want to do, right? I don't know. Even in Carolina, I don't think that they handily win this game again. And the Bengals are just pissed right now. Things are not going their way, but they're playing well. They'll get there very soon, right? They'll pull off the win. And if they can't beat the Panthers, things are over. I think they absolutely give it to the Panthers. I think that this is a jungle cat game. to remember. Look for the Bengals to destroy the Panthers. Look for another good Jamar Chase game. Keep your eye on the backfield for sure. Chase Brown's not really making an impact at all, so probably some more Zach Moss. But then on the Panthers, no Adam Thielen. Obviously, we just got to see if Andy Dalton can do it back-to-back weeks. Now the tape's out there, I'm curious to see how it goes. Probably fine. Like, Andy Dalton will probably be like Joe Flacco last year where he's scoring the fantasy points, throwing it a ton. But I don't know if he'll have the no interceptions, multiple touchdowns, 300 yards again. Like, that just seems pretty rare. But definitely curious and something to keep our eye on. AFC South matchup. Texans hosting the Jaguars, favored by 7. Again, I'll go with a cover here. The Texans win this game, no problem. But I think the Jaguars still cover. And we talked about it on Tuesday's show. Evan Ingram is a big buy target for me right now, I think. But really, all the Jaguars are acquirable. And I don't think they've been awful. They haven't been good, but they haven't been awful. I think there's still plenty of opportunity for them to turn it around. We're still only in week 4. And, we just saw the Texans get absolutely dismantled by Sam Darnold. So I think the Jaguars should be able to keep this game competitive. 7 points seems like a pretty wide spread. So we'll go with the Jacksonville cover. I still think the Texans win this game. We have to keep our eye on the Tank Dell issue, right? If he doesn't pick up any practice this week, look for a huge Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs game. And it might even be worth starting Dalton Schultz for the first time this season. But then on the Jaguar side of the ball, Tank Bigsby, right? If he plays, I am curious. He's kind of recovered a little bit more from his injury now. So that's just something I'm watching over the course of the season. He had a lot of usage week 1. So I want to see if he could ever get back to that or if it really is just the Travis Etienne show. But yeah, I think they'll cover. I think they'll cover the 7. Have they been god-awful? I don't think they've been god-awful, have they? I think they've just been, pretty bad. Right? And arguably fine. This is true, though. He is not great playing away. I don't know. We'll see. I think they at least cover. 7 seems big, especially with how the Texans looked last week. Anyway, Commanders, they just beat the Bengals. Can they beat the Arizona Cardinals in Arizona? Maybe, to be honest. We've got a little bit of a Cliff Kingsbury narrative here going over to Arizona. Maybe a little bit of the Arthur Smith thing like we saw week 1, relegated to coordinator, but goes to play the old team that you head coach, pull off the win for Arthur Smith, Steelers over Falcons. Can Cliff Kingsbury do the same thing? No. I think the Arizona Cardinals are just that good of a team right now. They're playing really well. Kyler Murray playing unbelievable. Marvin Harrison Jr. playing unbelievable. We're going with the Cardinals in this game. 3.5. I almost feel like the Commanders can maybe cover that. I don't know. 4 feels about right. 3.5 is a really good spread. Vegas. 3.5 is a really good spread, Vegas. But we'll go with the Cardinals there. I'm a little off about the spread, but Cardinals should beat the Commanders in this game. It should be a very fun game. I'm going to go ahead and say this is the game to watch this week. Should be fun. Jaden Daniels versus Kyler Murray. Should be lots of points scored. Fire up your Brian Robinson for sure. Austin Eckler is already marked out, which I don't know why I didn't mention that in the injury report, but Austin Eckler is already marked out. So should be a big Brian Robinson game. Should be pretty fun. I don't know. Yahoo doesn't show me the over-unders for some reason, so I may need to find a new pick'em. Yeah, I don't know. Probably high, though. That's the game to watch. Should be a fun one. Niners, Patriots in San Francisco. Sorry, before I move on, start Jaden Daniels or Kyler Murray in the matchup. Both, right? But I would say Kyler over Daniels. San Francisco versus New England. San Francisco favored by 10? Screw it. Honestly, yeah. I like to say that these big spreads, I like to call covers. But last week, the Patriots disappointed me. I thought that they would cover like the 7.5 that they gave the Jets, but they were absolutely dismantled. And I don't think that this Patriots offense is going to be able to do much against the San Francisco defense. So, yeah, 10 points seems fine. I think the 49ers should handle this game. Not much to watch besides Drake May, right? Probably not this game. This is probably, I'm going to go ahead and say it. This is the final Jacoby Brissett scapegoat game. This is the final time we see Jacoby Brissett start. And then we'll probably see Drake May next week. That's gonna be my fun little take for this one. Not much to watch, though. Should be an awful football game. Fire up Jordan Mason. Raiders versus Browns. Raiders favored by 1. I'm going to give it to the Browns. Banged up Jerome Ford. Bad Deshaun Watson. I don't care. I think that this Browns defense is still pretty good. And the Raiders looked a little off last week. There's a little bit of turmoil going on with Antonio Pierce called quote-unquote business decisions. So it sounds like somebody's kind of on the way out. Probably Devontae Adams. Things just don't seem right in Vegas. Only a 1-point spread suggests to me that the Browns would be favored if they were at home or if it was a neutral site, of course. So I'm just going to go ahead and say the Browns do win this game. And I'm going to also say this. Each team only scores 1 touchdown. No team goes into the 20s. We're talking about like a 15-10 type game. An absolute gross football game, but giving it to the Browns. Chiefs, Chargers, Chiefs favored by 8.5. No way, Jose. 8.5 is too much. And the Chiefs, they're playing pretty slow right now. They're not really the Chiefs of old where they're really scoring a ton of points. So I think the Chargers should easily be able to cover that. Chiefs still win this game. Chiefs win this game, no problem. But 8.5, I think, is a bit too big of a spread. We'll go with the Chargers covering that for sure, especially with Justin Herbert playing through the high ankle sprain, which, again, I just don't think he should. But whatever he is. But yeah, I think that they should keep this game close, a 25-20 type game. You know what I mean? And yeah, look to see how Justin Herbert looks with his high ankle sprain. Is he fine? Then he's fine, right? But I am curious to see how much pass volume he actually gets and how he looks in those throws. And of course, just kind of keep your eye on the Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins split again. Always fun to keep your eye on that one. And then for the Chiefs, Kareem Hunt was brought up to the active roster. So that's the big thing to watch is this Chiefs backfield. Does Carson Steele still get all the carries, or does Kareem Hunt mix in as well now? It's definitely important to watch. Take your flyers on Kareem Hunt while you can. I think he's going to get a bit more volume than people hope. Next, we have Ravens hosting the Buffalo Bills. Ravens favored by 2.5. Wow. Ravens favored, I guess, is because they're the home team. I'm going to go with the Bills, though. I mean, the Bills are playing lights out right now. They really are. Josh Allen playing unbelievable. Everyone's stepping up at the right time. They're also healthy right now. I think that they win this game. I know the Ravens finally, kind of exploded last week, but Buffalo should win this game. Sunday Night Football, pull off the upset in Baltimore. Give me the Bills. And then we have 2 Monday Night Football games again for some reason. I don't know what that's about. But Miami hosting the Titans. Titans favored by 1.5. Sure. I guess the Dolphins did not. Well, actually, you know what? No. We're going back to the Dolphins well. Last week I bet on them. I'm going to give them another week. I still believe in Mike McDaniel and Tyreek Hill and Devon Achane to score touchdowns at will. I do. So I'm going to give it to the Dolphins. The Titans defense is not good. The Titans offense isn't looking great, although they're going to be a lot better now that DeAndre Hopkins is back. But still, I think in Miami, the Dolphins get this going. I think they're fired up by the home crowd. I think we see a Devon Achane game. I think this should be good for the Dolphins. I think they could win it. Snoop Huntley probably at the helm. But even if it's Skylar Thompson, I'm giving it to the Dolphins. I'm going to do it. Pulling the Dolphins trigger. But, that's what we have to keep an eye on, right? Who the quarterback is, how good they look, the target splits, and then just the yak situations for Tyreek Hill, Devon Achane, and Jalen Waddle. And then on the Titans side of the ball, I'm just watching DeAndre Hopkins, baby. DeAndre Hopkins had a great game last week. Looks like he's healthy. I think he can keep things going. I think he's a big part of this Titans offense, and I hope he is. And lastly, the Lions hosting the Seahawks favored by 3.5. Giving it to them. Should be no problem. I know that the Lions haven't looked as good as they did last year, but I think they'll figure it out. And I think they should be able to beat the Seahawks. Should be a fun game. The Seahawks offense has kind of been firing on all cylinders, but in Detroit, you got to go with the Lions and look for another Jameson Williams game. Baby. We're going J-Mo. And then on the Seahawks, just check to see if Kenneth Walker plays, right? But that is every game. One last check into the chat for a couple of the questions I saw, and then we will get you guys out of here. I did want to note while I'm thinking about it, I meant to mention this at the top of the show. Tomorrow we will be live at 9 a.m. We will be live at 9 a.m. tomorrow. There's a new show launching on Player Profiler, and they had to go at 10 a.m. Eastern. Podfather and Alex Dunlap. It's going to be an awesome show called Content King. So wake and take going a little bit early. We're going to go at 9 a.m. tomorrow. Maddie Keywoom will be joining me. So it'll be a fantastic show. Go ahead and clear your calendars for 9 a.m. Eastern tomorrow. But questions, let's see. Will Huntley be starting for Miami? Unsure. Right now, it looks like it's trending towards Skylar Thompson. But if Thompson is out, we'll be going with Huntley. Should I wait for Monday to see who starts for Seattle or just plug in Juwan Jennings? Honestly, I think I might just plug in Juwan Jennings because it's looking like to me Kenneth Walker will play, but I don't think he'll be 100%. So then we're just talking about a backfield split between two less than stellar options. Donald or Love? Jordan Love. Let's see. And then, yeah. Edson. I know he had a question. I made a dynasty trade. Garrett, Kirk Cousins, and Penix for Kyler and Devontae Smith. I like it. I mean, I would have maybe held on to Kirk Cousins and Michael Penix, but you got a huge quarterback upgrade, so that's awesome for you. Actually, I think that's an incredible trade. And then I actually like Devontae Smith more than Garrett Wilson, even with the injury. So I think that's a fun trade. Good job. I think that's cool. Quarterback upgrade and a wide receiver I like a lot. Anthony Richardson or Andy Dalton? Anthony Richardson. Would I trade Bijan Robinson for Malik Neighbors? No. Oh, no, I can't do it. I can't do it. Oh, you probably should. You should probably do it. I'm not the person to ask. You should probably do it, but I hate saying that. You should probably do it, though. You should probably do it. Oh, I just don't want to do it. I just don't want to do it. God. Yeah, I mean, I think you have to do it. I just don't want to. Okay, but anyway, that is everything, guys. Again, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe. And make sure you tune in tomorrow as we go live at 9 a.m. Eastern. Keep that front of mind. Hit that bell so you get notified when we go live. 9 a.m. Eastern tomorrow morning. Me and Maddie Keywoom chopping it up yet again. Always a great episode when Maddie hops on. So make sure you clear your calendar. It's going to be a great one. Everyone, good luck in your week 4 matchups. Enjoy tonight's game. Malik Neighbors to the moon. Tune in tomorrow, 9 a.m. Eastern. Maddie Keywoom, wake and take. Have a good one. Peace.
From the Podfather to you, I deeply appreciate you tuning in. And many ask, what can I do? What can I do to help support the hosts, the research they do, the production costs? Go to PlayerProfiler.com, Dynasty Deluxe, World Famous Draft Kit, Rankings, DFS Dominator, and of course, data analysis. Subscribe to any one of those, and you support all of us and take Player Profiler to the moon.